Bonjour, my name is Elif Shafak. I'm a writer, a novelist, a storyteller. I'm also a commuter between cities, cultures, languages, and I like to think of myself as a global soul, as a world citizen. I'm very excited that my new novel, Three Daughters of Eve, will soon be published in the French language and in France, the country where I was born. I think every book, every novel is a journey, both for the reader and for the writer. And by the time we finish a book, we're a different person. Something has shifted in us. Something has changed. But I believe in particular writing this novel was quite challenging for me, emotionally as well as intellectually, because it was so close. In this novel, I tell the story of a young woman and her journey. But as I tell her story, I'm also telling the story of Turkey. I'm also telling the story of women in the Muslim world today. My country, my motherland, Turkey, has been going through major sociological, cultural, political shifts. And in my opinion, it has been going backwards very fast. And I believe this should concern us women even more than men, because when societies go backwards, when they tumble into authoritarianism, nationalism, populism, Islamism, fundamentalism, when societies go backwards into these ideologies, women have more to lose than men. And I believe many women are worried about the loss of their freedoms, of their independence. There are big debates today, not only in Turkey, all across the Middle East, among young women, big debates about identity, religion, faith, history, memory, sexuality, gender. But the problem is we don't hear these debates because mostly they take place in the private space. They don't take place in the public space. So we don't hear them. The media does not cover these debates. But I, as a writer, I am observing these young women having these very important discussions in their own private space. So what I wanted to do was to bring their voices from the private space into the public space. For me, it's very important that women's voices be heard. As a writer, I find it very important that I give more voice to the voiceless, that I bring the periphery to the center. So in my work, minorities have always played a very important role, sexual minorities, cultural minorities. I like to ask questions as a writer, questions about difficult subjects. I don't like it when writers try to preach or teach anything, but I think a writer's job is to ask difficult questions about difficult issues and create open spaces to take another look at those issues. So in this book, I have reflected the debates among three young women. One of them is Peri. She's a Turkish girl, and she grew up in a very divided family. Her mother is a very, very religious woman, and her understanding of religion is based on fear. And her father is a modernist, someone who believes in enlightenment. He's a democrat. He's a secularist. And she grows up in this family. In a way, the fragmentation, the polarization in her family is the polarization that I see in Turkey. And then she comes to Oxford University, where she meets Shirin, a young British Iranian woman who's an atheist, who is very critical of all religions, but in particular, Shirin is very critical of Islam for its lack of gender equality. And then she also meets another girl called Mona, who wears a headscarf and who's a practicing Muslim. and who complains about Islamophobia, because this is something she experiences a lot. Jokingly, these girls call themselves the sinner, the believer, and the confused. And I think this is a novel that very much focuses on the journey of the confused one in particular, and the confusions of our times.